Good evening and welcome to episode 40 of the Tales of Sigmar podcast. I am your host Chalmers and alongside me is Martin. Good evening, Martin.
Good evening, Chalmers, and how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. We are back. I feel like we say this quite a bit, but we are back. And I'll hold my hands up and say that was probably my fault.
Definitely your fault. Taking no responsibility.
Yeah, I was hoping for a bit of backup
there. It's good to be back.
No, it is good to be back. We kind of did the GHB review way back in July, when we were locked down, and well, we're still locked down, so nothing much has changed. But I kind of had a bit of a, I was going to say hobby wobble, but it wasn't really a hobby wobble. It was more of a hobby fallout almost.
Yeah, you just walked out of the hobby for a bit.
Yeah, I don't know. Something just, I just kind of didn't really enjoy painting. I think it was the fact that we weren't playing games, we weren't like going to events, and I just didn't really see any point of doing hobby. And that's kind of the truth to it, really. It was just like I just didn't really want to do hobby. I kind of disappeared from the WhatsApp groups and put everything on mute and just kind of started playing video games, and that was about it, really. It was
And sometimes you need a break. I mean, I took a break one summer. I'm trying to work out. It was probably two and a bit years ago. I think I did the same for about 2 months, where I just, and that was when we were playing. There were tournaments going on, and I just kind of down tools for about 2 months. And then when I came back, I was really refreshed. So I can imagine in the middle of the pandemic, with everything the way it was, it was relatively a logical thing to do. I mean, after our last review, we did still play a few games in person before we got back into second, third, fourth lockdowns. But I think it was around then that you started to struggle the most, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just, I don't know, I think because I've always just painted for events, and I think at some point you just kind of hit that, like you said, you kind of hit that wall of just like, I just want to have a bit of a break. I mean, saying that, like, even totaled up, even for, what was it, 6 months, 7 months of hobby, I still painted like close to 400 models last year. And it's like, I did 400 then, I did 650 in 2019. So it's like 1,000 models in a year and a half, and like, yeah, I just wanted a bit of a break, but it was quite nice. Like, not, I shouldn't say it's nice not doing hobby, but it was nice not feeling like I had to do it. So it was kind of like every evening, that's all I did, was just like, right, go in the man cave, let's do some painting, like, put on some music, crack on.
Yeah. And if you're not enjoying it, it starts to take, it's meant to be enjoyable. At the end of the day, it's meant to be a hobby. And like you say, once it becomes a chore where you've got to churn out an army for an event, and then you go on to the next event, you've got to churn out another army for another event, etc., it starts to lose that key part of it being a hobby, and it becomes a must-do.
We should probably clarify, you don't have to churn out a new army for every event.
Unless your name's James Chalmers.
That's just the way my brain is wired. Like, I just say, a new event. Oh, I wonder what new thing I can take, or what new army I can rustle up. But no, it was nice having a break. It was kind of, I've not played video games in years, so actually catching up on lots of amazing games I've missed has been quite nice. And all the money I saved for a Sons of Beermat army I spent on a Xbox Series X and PS5. So yeah, that army didn't happen. That's how embroiled I got with video games when I bought the 2 next-gen consoles. And I was like, cool, okay, yeah, let's keep playing.
There was a point where I thought we'd lost you for a bit. I must admit, there was a point where you were talking about buying both of those and all of that, and I was like, is this the end?
No,
is this the end of the 12? Is this the end of everything?
To be fair, I think my garage and the man cave like wouldn't allow me to step away that much. To be fair, I did actually turn down my, not turn down, but I kind of redid the man cave and basically turned it into an office with still a sizable working space and like display cabinets and everything. So it's, I think for most people, it's probably more than what they've got, but it's not a whole entire hobby room now. So I still like it. It's nice. I think I've kind of prefer it this way. But no, I'm back now. I'm kind of, like you said, feel refreshed, and I've been painting Bisley, which I'll kind of talk about later on in the show. And I'm looking forward to it. I know we still can't play games and can't do anything, but it's nice doing some hobby as well as video games. So it's a nice balance.
Brings the enjoyment back, doesn't it?
But yeah, in this episode we're going to be doing we're going to talk about, well, there's not really much to talk about, is there? But just a little preview showing some FAQs that came out.
Yeah, been really quiet.
Yeah, pretty quiet. No, we had the preview show last Saturday, and we actually had a little Warlords Discord chat going on, which was quite nice. It was actually nice watching all the streams on Twitch and having, what was it, 5 or 6 of us?
Yeah, there were a few by the end of it all, wasn't there?
Yeah.
I struggle at times when in previous streams, because what I tend to have is just have it on my phone. Yeah. And I'll have it on my phone, and then I can just constantly see all these WhatsApp messages coming through, and everybody's like, "Oh, what about this? Did you notice that?" And I was like, "This time I'm not doing that. I want to get us together and actually be able to talk or whatever." Because as good a job as the Games Workshop guys do, I rarely listen to what they're going on about. It's more about looking at the pictures and kind of seeing what people have noticed. So
yeah.
We had a couple of bits where everybody was told to shut up, and we listened to what they had to say. But most of it was us talking about, like, "Oh, did you notice that? Oh, yeah, what about that?" Rewind,
yeah.
Go again. So it was a really good way of doing it, and I think we'd definitely be up for doing that in the future for hopefully the future streams that they do.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I mean, these preview shows, they seem to be getting like amazing numbers. Like we saw at one point, I think it was 60,000 people watching it, which is crazy. But yeah, like it was so good, and like I said, kind of sitting with your mates and actually chatting about the reveals, it was actually quite a nice thing. So the Lumineth Realm Lords are getting basically a new army. They're becoming a part of the new Broken Realms book. So we had Broken Realms Marathi, which came out in help me out because I can't remember.
It was in the last 6 months, I believe. I was thinking about it before this, and I was like, it definitely came out recently. But no, that feels like it's been out a while now.
Yeah, so the new Broken Realms book is going to be Broken Realms Techless, and this is going to have new War Scrolls and War Scroll battalions and rules for the Lumineth Realm Lords, of course, Cities of Sigmar, the Maggotkin of Nurgle, Flesh Eater Courts, and the Ossiarch Bone Reapers. So there's a nice range of armies there. The Nurgle one's a surprise, I think.
It's a real mix, isn't it? And I think when you look at what they did with Marathi, it's difficult to work out how much you're going to get for some of those, because you obviously got a fair bit for daughters, etc. in there, but then things like Chaos, I think you just got that one battalion about the chariots.
Yeah.
I don't think you got much else in Marathi.
There was a couple of extra bits. There was, I think, the Lord Idolator rules and prayers that you could do for the Lords on chariots and stuff. But yeah, I know what you mean. Like some of them were a bit limited, but then you got like Ideneth got the mount traits and things like that. So it'll be interesting to see what is in there. The thing that we do know is there's going to be a lot of new Lumineth War Scrolls.
Well, I would hope so. There seem to be quite a few. We've seen a few in the flesh, and then we've seen a number of shadows. So I think that's the more intriguing bit of it all.
Yes. So a few days before, there was some leaked images of the kangaroos. Well, I think that's the easiest way of describing them. They're even called kangaroos on the non-potato camera article on Warhammer Community. And they're called the Huracan Wind Chargers. And they're the kind of kangaroos with some sentinel bow archers on top. They look really cool. I love them.
And I suppose the one thing to touch on here is, for those that aren't aware, when Lumineth first came out, they had some core troops, and then the focus then was the stone, or
the Alarith.
And with the Mountain King, etc. So this new set seems to be the wind element. So yeah, we're getting all these wind-related units.
Yes. So on New Year's, I'm trying to think when it was. On New Year's Day, they did a little preview show of, well, not preview show, a little preview video of like models coming out this year. And there were a few little Lumineth bits in there. One of them was definitely a mage riding a cloud,
Yeah,
or a hero riding a cloud. But yeah, then this leaked box art for the wind chargers got revealed. So then, when I first saw that image, I wasn't the biggest fan. I was like, "What the hell is that?" But then when the community did their normal, here's the actual images, they look really dynamic and really kind of they look fast. They look like a wind charger, what a wind charger should be. I know no one knows what a wind charger should be, but they've got that kind of pose that just makes them look like they're kind of just galloping as fast as they can. Do they gallop or do they hop?
I assume they hop. But they do look dynamic. They do look what you would kind of, if you were to visualize elves riding giant kangaroos, which is an odd concept. It looks about right.
Yes.
But the character one seemed to be able to go on all four, didn't it? So they then showed a character one later on.
So the Venari Lord Regent.
There we go.
And that looks like a completely different animal?
Yeah, it seems to have some of the original, or say the original, the kangaroo elements, but then, like I say, the front legs seem to be a bit longer and more like a horse. So I'm very intrigued to hear the fluff behind these and what they're meant to be.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they all look together. So with the preview, they did, as we kind of said, a big shadow preview. Kind of showed silhouettes of all the models coming out. There seemed to be a variant of the Lord Regent, which a few people were saying is going to be a named combat mounted character.
Yeah.
And that was kind of shown in that New Year's Day preview, whereabouts it showed a kind of very similar image, but it had different reins and a different shield and some different iconography. But yeah, there were a lot of new models. There seemed like there were a few heroes that they've got. There definitely seemed to be a couple of mages that seemed to be kind of... It's a bit hard to kind of say exactly what they were because you literally got glimpses of them in shadows.
Yeah.
But enough to kind of see what their silhouettes were. You got Swordmasters, which we've kind of seen from the Diachasm Underworlds box. The Lumineth in there has a Swordmaster, so...
And I think the interesting thing for me on that was, if you think about the original Lumineth book, you had all these elemental warriors, but then you had your archers and your spearmen, if you go back to your high elf world. I wonder whether or not these Swordmasters are going to be the core troops. You know, here's one core troop and then a load of... Yeah. As opposed to them being specific for the wind element. Because that would be an interesting bit if they start to build up. Because essentially for Lumineth, if you think about it, your non-element ones available at the moment are your archers and your spearmen.
Yeah. But the champion looks quite cool. It looks like they're holding two swords. Battling with two swords, while the others have like double-handed swords. So
yeah.
You know those poses are going to be really nice. There seemed to be a hero. It kind of reminded me of a Shalaxi a little bit. The Slaanesh hero that's got another hero on top. From the silhouette, it looks like there's just a model on a base and then this other hero just flying in the air somehow. But I think they're probably connected somehow.
Yes, and I'm actually got the model up at the moment, and I think looking at it, it looks like they've just blurred out where the connection is.
Yeah.
I'm guessing there's some kind of wind ribbon going up behind or something along those lines.
Letting them fly in, yeah.
Yeah, it looks fantastic, and it looks like it's almost like a pair of warriors dancing over each other.
Yes. Then there seems to be a return of the repeater crossbow, or a bolt thrower of some sort. There's definitely a giant bow with one person operating it at the end.
Yes, and it looks like I don't know. It looks more like almost a. And I'm looking at it now, and again, I've just noticed there's another bit next to it, so it's almost as if it's a single person
artillery piece, or yeah,
artillery piece. Yeah, almost like heavy bows, as opposed to a pure artillery piece.
yeah.
It's almost like heavy bows,
Almost like
almost
the
like
long
broadcast.
strike,
Yeah,
long strike crossbows.
yes. So a Lumineth version of those, which would
Yes.
be again really interesting to
Yeah,
see.
yeah. Um, and this is the one that I'm most intrigued about. It looks like there's a hero that's a standard bearer. Now that just takes me back to fantasy days, because standard bearers seem to be like disappearing from a lot of armies, but it seems like it's a specific battle standard bearer.
Yeah, and again, where are they going with that? Yeah, I've just brought that picture up, and you look at where the light is. They've clearly blurred out where the elf's head is. So,
Yeah,
but it will be interesting to see why they've got this form of standard bearer, and what the buffs are there. And again, how much of this is related purely to wind? You think about wind, maybe standard bearers, wind. I don't know.
let them move faster or
Yeah,
attack
something along those
quicker, or
lines. Or is it again going to come into the standard core Lumineth, where you can then get the elements fit on top?
yeah. Um,
So
so yeah, there seem to be quite a lot of interesting heroes there. And units as well. It seems like it's going to be almost bigger than what the original release was like. There seemed to be a mage that had so it had a moon and a sun on its headpiece,
yeah,
and apparently in the Lumineth book it talks about a lore master that mage that can kind of like cut through like loads and loads of enemies at once. So could we see a return of a lore master?
potentially.
I wouldn't mind
And
Hand of
again,
Glory
it's
again. Hand of Glory was quite fun to cast.
let's not go back to those days.
Yeah.
It is interesting how they are still tying in those high elf elements into
Yes.
and yet having it look completely different at the same time. So I'm very excited by this release, and I had 2 boxes of the Lumineth, and I was planning to sell them, but this release now has made me think, maybe do I keep them for a bit longer? See what else I had in. Oh, and actually, I tell a lie. Before, you had the cavalry was also part of what I class as the core Lumineth. They weren't related to
The
any
Dawn Riders,
particular element.
yes. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, it was an interesting release, but then they actually showed a model. And this model has got me now planning a Lumineth army. It's a named character, and it's Severeth, Lord of the Seventh Wind. And it's a flying fox with a bow. Like, what else do you need in AOS?
Yeah, and what I didn't realize until today was that that's actually fur. I thought it was just normal skin painted dark brown. Um,
Oh, the
but it
fox
is,
itself. Yeah, no, it's
yeah,
fair. Yeah,
it
yeah.
is fur because I don't know whether you've seen the artwork for it that I
Yes.
popped up today. It looks absolutely fantastic, I
Yeah.
must admit. It just, you know, a giant flying fox with a massive bow. What more do you want?
Yeah. So it's described as this fox-like creature as a demigod empowered by the wind spirits of Haish. Just in case you thought that Teclis had peaked with mountains. So that looks very cool, but actually, as you mentioned on today's article, and they talk about the Elementors explained, they actually show the non-named version of the model,
Yes.
which is a little bit more refined, not refined, a little bit more, I'm trying to think of the word to use,
Standard. Like, yeah, it's still an amazing model, but it's not quite to the same extremes.
yes, it's nowhere near as extravagant as what the other one is, and this is known as, it doesn't actually say. It just says build an unnamed version as well, so who knows what it is actually called? Does it
Yeah.
say in the article? No, it doesn't. So it's a bit like the Spirit of the Mountain, I suppose. You've got the Stoneheart King Avalonor, and then you've got the normal Spirit of the Mountain. So you can now have a Lord of the Seventh Wind, and then just, I don't know, someone of the Seventh Wind. But yeah, no, those models are. Or I think they're going to be a very Marmite model. Some people are going to hate them because it just looks so crazy, but others are just going to absolutely like love them.
I find that with a lot of the new models, to be fair, though, and I also find that a lot of them grow on you. I remember when the Deepkin first came out, I hated them, and now I absolutely love them.
Yeah.
You look at, if you were to take away the last 6 months, well, I say 6 months, let's say years worth of releases, everything pre that, it's hard to find models that I just don't like. I think after time you just start to appreciate them for what they really are.
Yes.
There's some really old models that could do with a bit of a revamp, but if you look at the new AOS style models that they've brought out, there's very few that I look at and go, yeah, I still don't like that. Didn't like it day one, still don't like it.
Yeah,
And I think these will be the same.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like the paint jobs are amazing, but sometimes it's you have to see other people's paint jobs to then go, oh, okay, yeah, no, I really like that model now. So we don't know when it's coming out. It says in the coming months, so I have a feeling March, April time, because I think there's meant to be quite a few Broken Realm books, so they don't want to kind of wait a long time to then have to release more. And we've already seen box art for some of the models, so to me that says they're kind of imminent.
I would have thought so. I mean, on the stream they said within months, but months, can be a long time. But I think you're right. I think they're building towards something with these Broken Realms. I assume the something is going to be AOS 3.
Yes.
But I suppose, I think in fairness to them, they are in a difficult position because of the pandemic. And had we not had the pandemic, would AOS 3 be coming this summer?
Yeah.
Which kind of feels like it was building to be around that time. That obviously is now on ice. And therefore they've got to be careful with these Broken Realms as to be able to pitch it right.
Yes, of course.
I would expect at least 4 Broken Realms, I would have said.
I would
potentially more.
Say probably 5 or 6. I'm just thinking because of how many factions are in each.
Yeah.
You're probably looking at what? Yeah, one that's going to have like Khorne and I don't know.
They can take it anyway because they haven't really touched on destruction in them.
Yeah.
Where do they come into it? And are some of them going to just build up and then actually the Broken Realms part of it doesn't touch a faction and then boom, when we get to AOS 3, the last Broken Realm book has like 2 sentences at the end that says, and then I don't know, the orcs came smashing through the walls from nowhere, and wow, all of a sudden it's all about destruction in AOS 3.
I have a feeling Skaven are going to get a big...
It's always Skaven, isn't it? Whenever anything goes wrong, it's always Skaven's fault.
Well, they were the thing that kind of mucked up the Malign Portents with...
Yeah, exactly. But we didn't... It was interesting because they had a big role to play in that sense, but we didn't actually get any rules or models from that. So you just never know, do you?
You had Clan Esh and Stop Nagash, and yet their models are 20 years old or whatever it is.
You can't see the Super Assassins.
Can't see it, yeah.
But it is building. And the other interesting part about that is they had obviously some new rules in Daughters of Khaine, and then in the reveal, we got a reveal that said we were getting a new Daughters.
Yes,
book.
so that was
interesting.
That's what I was gonna say. That was probably the biggest surprise, was that they just went, oh yeah, by the way, there's a new Daughters of Khaine battle tome coming out, and here's some endless spells as well, and everyone's like, what? Like the endless spells are some of the nicest endless spells that they've done. Like that snake is just gonna get converted all the time. by people to fit into their armies because it's such a beautiful model. But yeah, the thing, my worry is that suddenly this book is now just going to circumvent anything that's in Broken Realms Morathi for daughters. So does that say, well, actually, the Lumineth players need to buy Broken Realms tech list because in 2 months' time, 3 months' time, you're going to get a new Lumineth book, which would be crazy because we only got one in June last year. But with that many new War Scrolls and that, if
Yeah, and I would be surprised if it went down that route. And I suppose the difference between the two is that I don't think we're going to get that many new models as part of the Daughters release. I think it's just going to be the book and the endless spells.
it will be
Whereas
the Melusai Iron Scale, the hero, that will get a separate release as well, and then that'll be it.
yeah, whereas Lumineth have clearly they're pumping out new models. There's clearly a whole load of models to come. And yeah, so I wouldn't worry too much on that side, but it is interesting that they've done it where they've put this out and then they've got a new Daughters book so quick after it.
The one that points out to me for the factions that are getting covered in Broken Realms tech list is Magickin and Nurgle, because that's kind of the same age as what the original Daughters of Khaine book is.
Yep.
That to me screams that it needs a new book with some endless spells.
Yeah, and it was interesting that a lot of the issues with Deepkin got picked up by Broken Realms, but not all of them.
Yeah.
And so, do we expect a new Deepkin book to follow? With again just the new book and maybe a new character?
Yeah.
Maybe some endless spells as well.
Endless spell. I mean, to be fair, like Broken Realms Morathi, like the Idoneth War Scrolls in there, they didn't change that much. Like, because I went, all new War Scrolls for like the Eidolon and the Turtle. Like, I think the Turtle was the one that kind of got changed the most.
Yeah.
For the better. But you look at the Eidolons, it's like, what, they got a 5-up save. Great. Okay.
Yeah, they didn't quite get what we wanted, but I always thought the Eidolon was more about points than rules. Whereas the Turtle was always, no matter how cheap you make it, it's fundamentally flawed.
Yeah.
I think we've seen a lot more Sharks, but because of that as well. But it's always difficult, isn't it? Especially in the where we are at the moment, without seeing proper tournaments, etc.
Yeah.
What difference it really does make.
Yeah, that was a big surprise, but it's something that's been needed for a while. Like that Daughters book will fix so many of Daughters issues that it will stop Heartrenders being able to drop down turn 5 and go to grab objectives, and it will stop you being able to string out from Cauldrons to get that 5-up save because everything's going to be wholly within and everything. And yeah, no, it would be an interesting book to see. I think you'll see a lot more, and you see it already now. Well, obviously you don't see it at the minute because we're not playing games on the tabletop, but you see the list change a bit now, whereabouts it's a bit more snake heavy, which is never a thing it used to be. It always used to be witch elves and just roll lots of dice and cut your opponents off the table. Whereas now it seems like the changes that they've made, the fact that Morathi you can now have, I still don't understand it, but you can have Morathi, the witch on the table, and the Shadow Queen on the table as the big snake at the same time. Bit strange, but yeah.
They've completely redone that, haven't they? But yeah, and I think it makes sense that they move it more towards the Snake Ladies because, again, it's more AOS, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, the others are kind of a bit of a hangover from the old world, so I could see them moving much more into that direction and just having big snake-based armies.
Definitely. It was a good job I sold the 4 boxes of 5 snakes that I had on the shelf and I sorted out my man cave, so...
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I've still got a full Daughters army in the garage, like, primed. I just can't be bothered to paint 90 witch elves or whatever it is. I've done about 20 of them and I'm just like, I don't really want to paint anything else. But yeah, no, I'll look forward to getting the book. I always get every battle tome when it comes out, so again, that'll be nice to go through. And as we said, the endless spells are just the icing on the cake there, I think, because they look amazing. Hopefully they're not awful, but I'm sure they're going to be good. I expect that the blood sword thing will be a little bit like a Quicksilver swords almost, I expect. Or something along those lines, or perhaps it does mortal wounds and can fly out and attack. I don't know. We're just kind of guessing at the minute. I expect the icon will either make you immune to battle shock or give you extra bravery or lower their bravery or something along those lines.
Difficult to say, isn't it, with the endless spells, because I quite often look at them and go, oh, that looks like it's going to do this, and then you read the rules and it's completely
different.
Random, and it's like, okay, fair enough, right? So those
makes sense.
whirling swords of blood are going to boost your bravery, and that icon is actually going to blow everybody up within 2d6.
Yeah.
It's often very random.
So that was it for kind of AOS reveals. Because they did tease something else. Well, not they didn't tease. Within the potato camera shots, there was another faction that got revealed, and it was the Soulblight Gravelords, vampires.
Very nice.
Plastic
Very nice.
Vampires. Yeah, the model looks amazing. So everyone
not pirates, no.
Not pirates, no. Not what everyone was saying. It was going to be pirates. They look very classic vampire counts, I think.
Yeah, which was I was really glad to see.
Yes. It's I think they can still make it their own unique IP without kind of going too crazy. But no, that one model that they've revealed looks awesome, and everyone was kind of looking forward to it at the preview show as well. And then we got a Underworld's Diachasm, the Crimson Court, which is a group of vampires. And that was the reveal. So, I don't want to say disappointing. It's not disappointing because the models are phenomenal. Like,
they are.
I don't like the dude with the wings. He looks just a little bit kit bashed almost.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I don't mind him so much. My issue was the massive hair lady. And I know. As most people were like, wow, and I kind of looked at it and went, ugh. I don't know whether it's the hair or what it is, but there was something about that model that didn't quite work for me. But the other three, just all completely different, but all absolutely fantastic.
Yes, you've got the guy standing on the stone in the red armor who looks
classic.
It's the red armor that I think, like you said, just makes it look classic, but he looks so good. The paint job on it is amazing, but the pose as well, it's so nice.
But you could put a square base on that and stick it in a fantasy army easily. It would it's got a modern feel to it, but it remains
fits
that
into
classic,
a very classic vampire count army. Then you've got like you said, the lady with the two swords and the long hair, which you don't like, but I really like as well. And I've seen a lot of people in like Necromunda groups and that saying I can't wait to convert her up into a kind of bounty hunter and stuff. I think you'll see it get converted quite a bit. And then, is it Manfred Jr.?
He does look a bit like, I'm not sure you can say a younger version of Manfred. Very much.
We said it in the chat. When he flashed up, we went, "Is that Manfred?" And we're like, "No, it's not Manfred." But it really looks like him. No, again, I think it's that classic, the blacky blue vampire armor with that face and the big he does look like a kind of Manfred, but he does look really imposing as well. Like
he does. I mean, I look at that model and think it's going to be a pain to paint because those arms are so close to his body.
Yes,
there's going to be bits behind there that you're going to have to, if you want to try and get anything resembling.
My hope is those two arms are whereabouts the contact points are to the armor.
Yep.
And then you can literally leave the arm off and paint it all separately and then plug it in. I hope that is the case.
I would have guessed that is where it is, but you just never know, do you?
Yeah.
But I kind of look at that, and other than that, but that model looks fantastic, and it looks like it's got a massive cape across the back as well.
Definitely. But that was kind of the Soulblight reveal.
Well,
Until
was it? Yeah. Was it?
so GW had like said, "Oh, we're going to do previews for all of these games," and they left a little blanked out thing at the bottom, which everyone was kind of speculating over numerous things, and people were saying Battlefleet Gothic, and people were saying Epic, and people were saying Mordheim, and blah 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 blah. And it was actually Warhammer Quest Curse City, which actually looks really cool for from what we've seen of the um, video. Like they did a kind of very animated, almost like a film noir style kind of graphic novel video for it, and it looks like you're in the cursed city of Ulfenkarn, and it is lots and lots of undead, and they showed off 2 models.
Yeah.
Shall we? Okay, let's talk about We'll leave the nice one. Not the okay. They're both nice, but let's leave the really nice one till the end. So let's talk about one of the leaders for the undead.
Yeah. So before we get into that, what are your thoughts on Warhammer Quest as a game? Because I know you've played. I've not played the new version. I love the original.
Silver Tower down the club. Yeah. I absolutely loved it. There were a few bits where we became very powerful, and it kind of felt like I was like a Skaven warlock, Greyseer, and like I was getting spells and abilities about, so I could just like nuke a whole entire room in one go. And I was like, all right, I'm just retiring this character because he seems a bit broken. But actually, as a kind of an evening's game down the club, like just with a few mates, it was really fun. And I think when all of this is over, and if someone goes, look, anyone want to go play Curse City for the night, like round mine, and 5 of you are around the kitchen table after all this lockdown, I think everyone will snap your hand off.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Like, I didn't buy Silver Tower. Kyle had our copy for the club, but I think this one I'll definitely be picking up.
Yeah, cause I look at the models, and we'll cover them in a second. They look great, and like I say, I remember the original, and I played the original for hours, and I absolutely loved that game. But I never managed to get any of the new versions of it, so I think I definitely will look to buy into this one.
It'll be interesting to see how this version gets supported post-launch, because with Silver Tower it was a very standalone game. This is it. They did a few like extra hero packs where you could take a few more of the AOS heroes and use them as your warband instead. But that was kind of it. They did the 40k Blackstone Fortress, and they've done a few expansions for that. They've added like extra bosses and new rooms, etc. So it'll be interesting to see whether they go down that route with this and add in like extra areas of the city and new heroes and new bits and bobs. Or whether it's literally a standalone release, see what happens, and then 6 months down the line, everyone kind of forgets about it. I hope that's not the case, but it's, like I said, it is still something I think post-lockdown, if the models and that are really nice, and the gameplay works really well, then I think a few nights, just 5-6 of us playing in the house, could actually be quite a fun thing. But they only revealed 2 models from the set. So it's going to be a group of, basically your heroes, and they're going to be fighting against the undead. And it's going to be what we can assume, the new Soulblight Gravelords, just as a kind of before the battle tome comes out, I can assume. Would you kind of guess?
I don't know. Originally I thought it was, but then the actual undead model, I'm not sure if that's Gravelords or not. And that was the interesting thing.
Well, he is called Gorslav the Gravekeeper, so
yeah,
and they're called Gravelords, so
kind of makes sense. But I was expecting it to be a vampire-esque model.
I think you're going to see, even though it's called Soulblight Gravelords, I think it's going to be focused very much around vampires, but they're still going to be using either new zombies or new thralls or something like that. A kind of a new plastic troop unit that kind of fits the undead style. Like, because they need to get rid of the old zombie models, because let's be honest, they've had their day. Skeleton warriors, no one wants to do more skeleton warriors, so it kind of makes sense that
because they've kind of stolen skeleton warriors and made them something else.
Yeah, exactly. So it makes sense for them to release a newly turned vampire unit, or like I said, a group of thralls, or something along those lines, where that becomes the kind of battle line for a Soulblight army. And whether we see that in this box, or like I said, it could be that it's a completely separate release and Soulblight comes down the line. It would be a bit weird to release a box set with loads of undead and then have a completely different undead release.
Yeah.
So we're not too sure. I mean, I like the hero. I don't know. He's not the greatest. Like, I don't understand his head thing. Like, he's just wearing a load of bones on his head, or is it bones or wood? Bones.
I think it's bones. Yeah, it's meant to be bits of bone, but
and his super pointy shovel.
Yeah, and I don't know. I know it's not, but it does look like he's surfing.
Within 5 minutes, I saw someone had photoshopped all of that out, and he was like grabbing the top of a skateboard.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I thought. As soon as I saw it, it was like he's surfing or something. And I get he's like, I assume he's lifting up a grave to let that thing below him out. So yeah, it is. It didn't grasp me like the vampire ones did, but at the same time, did a couple of different paint jobs, and I could see it working really well.
Yes, yeah, and maybe that's only just occurred to me from actually seeing the image again. Like, that zombie that's coming out of the ground, maybe they are going to redo zombies, new plastic zombies, perhaps they're more proportionate.
Yes, and it kind of makes sense, and maybe this game is their experiment on how to make zombies look a bit better.
Realistic.
And we go from there. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see where that goes.
But then they showed the first hero. Oh boy. Vampire Hunter Yelson Darek. What a model.
It's everything you would imagine a vampire hunter would be. You know, the stakes, the hammer, the gun that fires stakes, the ginormous sword that doesn't look like you'd ever be able to get off his back. Lots of pouches, proper hat. It just ticks all the boxes for me.
Yeah. So apparently he was expelled from the Order of Azir, and he decided a massive career change and started hunting vampires. And apparently where is it? There it is. So all the stakes that he's carved from Axian firewood, and they burst into flames when pierced the flesh of the undead creatures. So
that's useful.
Yeah, he's got stakes from the land of from the realm of Axi that literally burst into fire when it hits the undead. Sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, take that. Definitely take that.
Yeah, I love it. Like you said, he's kind of taken that original. Do you remember the original Witch Hunter model from Fantasy?
Way back
and
when,
they've literally just put it in the AOS machine, turned it up to 10, and went dink, but not gone too crazy. Like, he could have easily had like clockwork legs and stuff like that, but he's like that original model, just made bigger, and just it's those weapons and the kind of bits of detail on his, like, the stuff that he's carrying and everything like that. He looks so good, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't criticize it. It's one of those models where, like, some of them you look at and go, yeah, I can see that, where they're going with it, but it doesn't quite work for me. That one, you could just buy that as a one-off just to paint.
Yeah, 100%.
It's just a fantastic model.
So on the website, there's a website for Curse City, and it looks like that they're going to be kind of revealing the characters on there, and it says for the Agents of Defiance, so those are the heroes, there's going to be 8 of them. So it's only got Darek at the minute. And then the Overlords of Ulfenken, it says they've only got 5.
Well, it's interesting because for the heroes, they did, on that video you mentioned, they did do a little picture of the heroes stood outside.
They showed 4 of them.
Yes, and I look at the picture, and one's clearly some kind of dwarf. We assume KO.
Yeah.
One is your witch hunter. Then you've got what looks like a wood elf.
He looks very much like the what's he called? Kanofi, the archer from the Beastgrave Underworld set. Looks very much like that. So whether it's another Kanofi and a kind of re-envisioned Wanderer style thing,
it looks like it could do. And then the one that gets me is what I can only assume is some form of
ogre.
Yes. Yeah. And to me it looks like a Blood Bowl ogre.
Yeah.
It's that kind of
a very humanoid ogre that kind of I mean it very could be like back in fantasy days. I'm pretty sure Empire had.
You had ogres in there. So I'm wondering whether this is going to be an extra piece. And I love what they're doing with this in the overall AOS setting, is that they're starting to drip feed little bits and pieces. And Kanothi is a perfect example. You know, they put out that warband, and I just assumed there'd be a massive book that followed with a full-on army.
Yeah.
We just didn't get it.
Yeah.
But they can keep teasing it and keep coming back and dripping it in, and they don't have to do massive armies for every single race. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what else comes out from that.
Yeah, it says what's it? They'll have much more to reveal about Warhammer Quest Curse City over the coming weeks, rather than months. So that to me says it's coming out sooner rather than later. Which, if you think about it, so they've said that the Diachasm, the Crimson Court, the vampires, they're coming out in April apparently. If this is coming in they're revealing more in the coming weeks. Say this comes out in April as well. This is me just guessing and tinfoil hat on.
Yeah.
And they revealed the Soulblight Gravelord, that one model that got leaked in the actual proper packaging. Yeah. So we know it's a proper separate release because we saw the actual blister pack that had the hero in. Does that mean that June time we get Soulblight Gravelords?
It seems a very odd one because I just assumed when that article came out the week before the reveal that it was just going to be in the Techless book. I just assumed that the Broken Realms Techless book was going to have some vampires in it.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't going to be a separate.
No, I thought that was going to be the introduction. You'd get that, and then from there they might throw in a full-on book. And the fact that it's not in there, the fact that it's not in anything that they revealed, you just kind of wonder, well, where did that come from?
Yeah.
How
did that get leaked if it's not coming anytime soon? Because we've got Head Knights of Slanesh going up for pre-order in 2 weeks' time, so mid-February. And that's getting 10, 11 new model kits in the book for all the mortals.
Yep.
You've got the Daughters of Khaine book, as we've already mentioned, which, as far as we're aware, is literally endless spells and the hero being released. You've got the Techless book with 10 to 12 units of Lumineth coming out. So
where do vampires fit into
that? To me, like I said, I think if you've got Curse City and the Warband coming out in April, I think June time.
Yeah.
The fact that they didn't reveal anything yesterday, and they didn't even mention it, they very briefly talked about, oh yeah, we showed that vampire hero, and that was it.
Yeah, and I'm going to be poring over the Broken Realms book to see if there's any mention of vampires in there. You
Yeah,
know, if there's any kind of just breadcrumbs in there that kind of like,
points
and
towards
then I
them.
walked into a room and there was somebody sucking blood. The end. Um, I'm sure they could do a
Any
better job than
hints of yeah,
that. But you know, something along the lines of and just it would probably just be a one-liner of there were all these people dying in the city. Some had pierced necks,
yeah,
and you know that's it. It's stuck in the middle of a massive ramble about something that's going wrong in a dark city or something like that. Um, or whether it is quite literally completely removed from this whole Broken Realms thing, which then makes me wonder: is it going to be part of the AOS 3 whenever that rocks up, or is this just a complete standalone?
I
It,
think it will be a complete standalone battle tome and model range. I think it's going to be like a big model range.
but it doesn't. To me, it won't make sense if it doesn't fit in with a Broken Realms book. Because if you look at, you had the giants, the Sons of Behemoth,
Yeah,
right? So yeah, we have that. But since then, everything has been related to the Broken Realms, in that you had Slanesh and Daughters as the main, along with Stormcast, as the main ones in the first Broken Realms book. You then had, well, we're then assuming we're going to get Teclis plus a couple of others um, in this one. You look at what's being released, it's the Daughters book, it's Head of Knights, then we're going to get Lumineth, which ties into there. Do you see what I mean? It
yeah,
just
yeah,
seems like every release is going to be tied to those books, not necessarily that the full rules are in the book, but at least the story arc is going to do that. I
yeah.
just
Well,
don't see how you could have a overarching Broken Realm story arc and then halfway through it just randomly, oh, and by the way, there's some vampires over there.
the whole point of this, the Broken Realms Teclis book, is that Teclis has taken the fight to Nagash. So to me, that says that they probably do crop up at some point, but whether it's at the end, I honestly don't know. Like,
Yeah,
if you've got this big fight between Teclis and Nagash in the Realm of Death, suddenly at the end it could be the Soulblight rock up and go, "What's up?"
yeah, and I don't know why, but I'm always waiting for the bit that turns around where Soulblight like reject Nagash for some reason.
Yeah.
Of all of them, they always seem to be the ones most likely to turn away from Nagash in the death space.
Whereas it was Manfred who always got like screwed over by Nagash,
Yeah,
didn't he? So yeah, it would make sense. Um, but yeah, it's interesting. It would be like interesting to see how they fit them into it because, like you said, it's a kind of a very specific faction, but also like they're very classic looking as well. So how do they? Where do they fit into the mortal realms? Like in the broken realms, like where exactly are they? For them to still keep that very classic look, while everyone else is rocking around on kangaroos and like
yeah,
bone
and
catapults and everything else.
you're right, and kind of like we have had vampires that they're still in the books, etc. And I was reading one the other day that had a vampire in. And so they've been in the fluff for a while, but you know it's not like they're all of a sudden surprising you with this brand new concept. Um, but at the same time, why have they not been involved in any of the timelines?
Yeah,
It's an odd one.
might have been too sunny. Just stuck indoors, like come on, give us a bit of cloud.
Well, to be fair, we are now about to explore the realm of dark, aren't we? I mean, we're doing
Yeah,
the realm of light at the moment, but next up is the realm of dark, and we know that it's not all just elves on both of those realms. So maybe there's something in that.
yeah. Who knows? It's interesting to see. I mean, I'm like I said, I mean, I'm a little bit not out of the loop because I still kind of followed what was being released, etc. But I didn't read it at all. But I've got Broken Realms Marathi here, so I'm gonna kind of go through that and give it a read, and then hopefully by the time I finish that, Techlist will be out, and then I can read that as well. But no, it was a good reveal show, wasn't it? It was nice. It was like it seemed like it went really quick compared to some of them. But I don't know whether that was just because we were all
I
chatting
think
as
that was
well.
just 'cause we were all chatting, and when you got the bits that you didn't really care about, the 40k bits, etc., we could still talk about it, but you weren't sat there going, "Come on, where's AOS? Where's AOS?
Yeah.
Where's it?" I think it was disappointing in a couple of senses because I was expecting a bit more in the vampire side of the world.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was also a bit disappointing that the leaks had happened because I kept looking at it through the lens of imagine if those leaks hadn't happened, then you would have got
all of that Lumineth stuff
all
that
that
like no one knew was coming.
the kangaroos, and you would have got vampires at the end, and it would have been a wow, look at that. So did they have to rejig it? Was it always part of the plan to put something out early? You just don't know, do you? But
yeah.
I kind of tended to give them the bit of a benefit because of those leaks that had come out.
Yeah. The thing I would have liked was actually seeing what the Lumineth models are out rather than just silhouetting them. Because like you said, like a few days before, you got those wind chargers like spoiled, and like then they went, oh yeah, here's some new models coming out, and it was all just silhouettes. It's like, well, I want to kind of see what they look like rather than guess. But yeah, I suppose that's them doing their marketing job right, because it's making me want more. I want it. I want to see what.
Yeah. If you want to keep it on top of it now and work out when it comes out and the rumor mill, etc.
Exactly. So. But no, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with the preview shows. Like, I hope that they do another one soon, and then kind of reveal the Lumineth models itself, and maybe another hero for Warhammer Quest, because I think those shows are awesome. Like, they're such a good. It's an easy way of. Well, I say it's an easy way of doing it, but I know it's probably a lot of work to do in the background, but it's still a great way of actually showing to a wider community rather than just 100 people in a special event that's managed to get in, and then everyone else sees it on the community site. Like, everyone being involved for that 1 hour show. You got 60,000 people all seeing it at the same time for the first time. It is pretty cool. So hopefully they do continue it.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's always been something that I enjoyed from when they first started doing it at the start of the pandemic. And long may it continue. They've got a careful balance in that they need to go to shows and they'll need to do something at shows. But how you balance that with the online ones, I'm not too sure. But I think I hope, at least whilst we're still in lockdown, to see a fair few more of these, because I really enjoy them.
Most definitely. But after that, on Monday, we got the Winter FAQ.
Did we? Did we?
Yeah. That was a fun day, wasn't it?
I must admit, I was slightly lucky in that I was pretty maxed out at work, and I didn't really get to see much of the reaction to it.
God,
I saw the reaction to the reaction of it, which was interesting.
Yeah, so the FAQ, okay, right. GW kind of said it was a big FAQ. It was going to affect all the armies. It was going to be like a huge thing. It's coming out like some point in January. Everyone was like, okay, that's fine. Like, Winter FAQs, it's always been a thing. Then it came out and it didn't really change anything. There was a couple of questions answered here and there. There were no points changes. They kind of explained why, because they said there was not enough data because of everything happening and everything, which... Right. I can understand that they've said that. It kind of contradicts it when they did a 40k one 2 weeks prior and changed all the points. Like...
Yeah. I suppose my disappointment with it was, and I think... irrelevant of how you feel about it, and like you say, we've seen some very strong opinions on social media about it. Games Workshop have done some amazing strides, and I saw somebody tweet, and I kind of retweeted it around, can you remember when we used to get one army book every 4 years?
FAQs.
The army and no FAQs, etc. Yeah, when you look back on it, they have made massive strides, and the fact that we're having streams of all these reveals, etc. It's fantastic. But every now and then, I feel that they just kick themselves in the teeth, and they just or shoot themselves in the foot. So like they just all they had to do was put something out at some point in January. Say, look, guys, really sorry, we don't have enough data. Yes, we're still working on the FAQ for a couple of changes, but there aren't going to be any points changes.
Yeah.
Right?
Just
throw that out early.
Dampen people's expectations and go, look, it's not going to be a massive one like we said. We're going to be working towards a much bigger one in summer.
Yeah.
There'll be a few questions answered, but don't expect anything big. And yeah, they didn't do that. I mean, I got an email from him saying, check out all the, I'm trying to think what it was, unmissable changes or something to AOS, and I was like, it wasn't really anything. The only change was that they made, the kind of significant change was they made the cultists from the Warcry set battle line in Broken Realms Marathi if you use the idolaters rules
which
for chaos.
Which kind of makes sense, because even from a fluff perspective, read that book, it's one of those ones where you kind of think, well, why are they not?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that fundamental issue of comms. Yes, we're in a pandemic. Yes, all these things are going on, and yes, fair enough. But all it needed was a bit of upfront comms, rather than for weeks on end people saying, "Where's the FAQ? Where's the FAQ?" And then all of a sudden they drop it, and then all of a sudden there's nothing there.
Yeah.
If they'd just been upfront and said, "Look, guys, we're still working on it, but actually, you know what? You're not going to get any points changes because there's not enough data," then people would have, they would have kicked off at the time. But I don't think it would have been quite such an issue.
To be fair, I mean, everyone's kind of, well, Australia and America's still playing games. It's like, yeah, they are. Okay, fair enough, they are. But what's it? 90% of the playtesters are UK based or whatever it is. They're not playing games. And yeah, you can play Tabletop Simulator. Okay, everyone knows Tabletop Simulator. You can play AOS on it, but it's still got limitations of what you can and can't do on it. And during this time, no one wants to sit there and play loads of games of Tabletop Simulator on a screen when they've probably been sat at home on their screen all day to then work out what the best points are. Okay, yes. There's a few glaring things that need changing. Croak needs changing. I think everyone knows that Croak needs point increases, but it's pointless doing 1 or 2 point increases of the glaringly obvious things and not addressing the rest of the stuff, because then it just, you're not really fixing much. You're fixing one leak when there's a huge hole everywhere else, and you're not kind of balancing it all. You're just getting rid of that one thing, or you're not even getting rid of it. People still take Croak, but.
And there's always going to be somebody who goes, "Oh, you missed this, or you missed." How low do you go with it all? Yes, there's 1 or 2 strikingly obvious ones. Maybe should have done those, but then you say, "Well, if you did Croak, why didn't you do this one?" And well, what about that one? And then,
to be fair, they're damned if they do, they're damned if they don't. Because what was it? The last point changes was when Caradron got changed, and that was everyone kicking off, saying, "Why are they getting changed? They didn't need changing." It's like, well. What do you want them to do? They'll either change stuff or they don't. It's it wasn't the best course of action for him, but give him see exactly what they're doing. They're bringing out blooming 4 battle tomes and start of this year or whatever it is already. And all the models, and everyone going, "Oh, well, I'm just not going to buy models until you fix the FAQs." You are don't lie to yourself that.
That's my fundamental issue with all this: is nobody forces you to go and play this game. Nobody forces you to go and buy their models. Nobody forces you into this. If you feel as strongly as some of the things that we've seen recently, then don't bother, because it's clearly not an enjoyable pastime
play a
for you.
different
This
game.
is a hobby.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, this is a hobby. This is something, and we talked about it at the start where you took your break. This is about something where you switch off from your day-to-day job, you go and you enjoy it. If you're not enjoying it, what are you doing with it?
If the only enjoyment you get is just constantly complaining on Twitter, then it's probably not for you.
Nope.
Like in the nicest way possible. If you can't just get on and play with the game, and like we're not playing tournaments at the minute. If you're going to whinge non-stop and you've got a problem, then go organise a game with someone else and make your own points and your own rules and just agree amongst yourselves. But like, I'm not fussed. Like, okay, they didn't change anything, so what? Like, who cares? Like, I haven't played a physical game in 7 months or whatever it is. Like, I don't really care if they've not changed the points of a few models. Like,
no, and I think you kind of sum it up there, though. The whole thing with the points, realistically, is around tournaments, right? And yes, there's some TTS tournaments going on, but if you're doing a TTS tournament, you're already doing something slightly off the beaten track. So there's no reason why you can't do your own points in there or do your own, comp. But fundamentally, it's a game. You're playing it among friends. If you're playing amongst friends and you're not going to tournaments, and whether it's TTS or otherwise, then you agree these changes, or you agree not to take certain things.
that's like
I get.
Sorry, like Anthony, one of our club mates, he played in the TTS tournament a few weeks ago, and they banned the top 6 armies.
Yes.
Like they said, no Seraphon, no KO, no Idenef, no this, no that. You've got to play with the rest. And he said it was fine. Everyone just took different lists and had a bit of a laugh. It's not that hard to kind of work around it. If you've got an issue with an army, just say, look, I don't want to play with that army at the minute. Like.
And the beauty of TTS as well is you can't necessarily do that in real life because you get the argument of, well, I've just spent £200 and 6 months painting up this army to bring to this tournament. Now you're telling me I can't have it. That's unfair. Well, in TTS, that argument kind of just goes out the window. Yeah, you might not be as practiced with your other army, but again, we're here to have fun.
Yeah.
There's no prizes, as far as I'm aware, in these TTS tournaments anyway. It's not like you're going to get a trophy to stick on your wall or something like that.
It's a means to an end.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you put all that into perspective, I get why people were disappointed. It did feel like a bit of a letdown, but I think as much as anything, that was because it had been built up, and we're like, they're taking their time. They're clearly taking the time to make sure they get it right. Well, that's fair enough. We're in a pandemic. Let's give them a little bit, and then, okay. So I do get it, but like you say, you've got to put it into perspective.
Yeah, and
why are you doing this if it's not for your own enjoyment?
Exactly. But I think that's all that we'll say on the topic. Like, I didn't care. Like, to be fair, they could have just not released it full stop, and it wouldn't have bothered me. So it is what it is. Like, they'll do another one, and by the time that we get back into properly hobby and like properly games, the new one should be out, or it might even be version 3 by that time. It probably won't be due to all the delays, but you never know. It's 2020 was weird, and 2021 started off weirder. So
yeah, who knows where we'll be?
Who knows where we'll be? We'll just see what happens. But yeah, just get on with it. I think that's the easiest way of saying it. Get over it and get on with it, and just crack on. It's toy soldiers at the end of the day, so that's the best way of looking at it.
I 100% agree. It is what it is, and there's always alternatives.
Yes, there is, and that's probably going to be a good segue onto what we've been painting over the last month. And there's other systems, isn't there, Martin?
There is. And kind of like you say, in the last month, actually, when I think about it, in the last month, I think I've managed to finish one model. But kind of whilst you've been on your hobby holiday, I discovered Marvel Crisis Protocol. I think we both picked up the box sets around the same time.
We did, yeah. I think it was
just into lockdown. I'm not sure if
just
we
before lockdown. I think it was. I think we picked it up just before Fall of the Old World. the last event we went to in March, like the 2 weeks before lockdown.
Because I remember being in the shop up in Stirling, looking
Yeah,
at
we
it,
were looking
and
at other
going,
bits.
"Oh, well,
Yeah,
maybe." And it's. I'll be honest, it sat on the shelf for a while. I played one physical game over the summer with a friend, and I completely fell in love with it as such. And I found it's a lot easier to play on TTS than Age of Sigmar because it generally you've got between 4 and 6 models on a table each, which on a computer is much easier to move them around, and the mod's great.
100%. Yeah,
And then I started painting up the models, and I'm thoroughly enjoying painting individual models at the moment, as opposed to painting an army. I've got myself a wet palette. I've been able to create mixes on the wet palette that I know I'll never have to recreate, and that's always been my issue with doing that with an army. Is you come up with something, you paint a couple of models, and then you go away from the army, you come back in a month's time, and you still got to finish a load of stuff off, and you're like,
you forget how you got to that colour.
yeah, how did I do? Oh, what's this? And then you waste about 3 or 4 models trying to get to it. Whereas with Marvel Crisis, you don't even have to have matching bases. But that's essentially what I'm going for. Is there's a theme with the bases. I'm using the same base color there. Other than that, nah. So I finished off Thor. I've got the majority of the way through Venom, but unfortunately, real life work keeps getting in the way. And I've actually also painted the odd clone trooper from Star Wars Legion.
Oh yeah.
But I've been waiting for some paints that are stuck because there's some pigment with the order as well that just isn't in stock. So only recently I cancelled that element of the order. But I'm waiting for the Black Templar contrast paint to come through.
Yes.
Because I'm going to use that on them as well. So that should be here in the next couple of days, and hopefully my work will calm down soon so I can get them done.
Oh, excellent.
But yeah, it's been more Marvel. I got some of the big guys to paint up because I'm not even painting particular groups of them. I'm just painting random models that I like.
Yeah, you gave me an intro game last week on TTS, and yeah, I'm completely into it now. I've painted a few of the starter set. What have I done? Spider-Man, Iron Man, Captain Marvel, Dr. Octopus. And I started Captain America and he went in the paint stripper within 5 minutes. So,
There you go.
yeah. So I'm kind of like, I'm staying good. I'm going to paint up the whole starter set first, and then get some of the other heroes because I'm a massive comic nerd. So it's very hard at the minute, especially now that I'm back in a hobby groove, to not just go out and splurge a few £100 on lots of heroes. Lots and lots of boxes of superheroes. So I'm being quite restrained at the minute, although Thanos is kind of calling to me any second.
And that's the thing with it as well. I look at it and you kind of look across, and there's so many iconic ones and so many that you're just like, oh yeah, I could do. Oh yeah, well that one. So yeah, it's a nice refresher as well. It's a palette cleanse from having to do an entire army or even an entire unit as much as anything.
Yeah. Whereas I've been painting armies. Shot card.
Yes. with speed again. With speed.
Well, yeah, kind of with speed. I mean, it's taken me. I've basically been painting up my Idoneth Deepkin army, which I completely forgot I owned. So at the start of lockdown in March, I bought, built and primed in a week a Idoneth Deepkin army, put it all in a box, and then completely forgot about it in the garage, and then obviously had my whole entire hobby lull. So it wasn't until Christmas time, when I was sorting out the garage and sorting out decorations, etc., I found the box and went, oh, I forgot I had this army. As you do. And that's what kind of got me back in the hobby, and I was just like, right, let's actually pick these up and see what I can do, and see whether it's time to return. I was like, let's just try and paint a couple of bits, so see what happens. If not, I can put them back in the box and then just go back on the Xbox or PlayStation and try again in another month. But actually, no, I've really enjoyed it. I've been painting up the Idoneth, and it's nice not having a deadline, because I'm spending time painting them and trying to paint them actually to some of the best painted ability I've done, which
They
is
do look fantastic. You always have a way of getting vibrant basing, and I think this time you've exceeded yourself in your basing. But the rest of it looks great as well. I love I've always loved the turtle, but
thank you.
It's a cracking job there, and I know you've been noticed by others as well.
I've been on the Warhammer Community wrap up hobby show like twice now in the last week, so that's been amazing. I kind of said to Wade when he messaged me, I was like, oh, thank you so much. Like, it's kind of actually like really kind of warming almost just to kind of get recognised for it. It's kind of crazy, like actually taking time and putting that extra little bit of effort into stuff.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, I paint to an okay standard, like normally when I do tournament armies, but they are kind of rushed to the point of I'm skipping steps whereabouts I know I could probably do better. And I mean, some of them armies have got painting nominations, but this one, it just, even myself, I feel kind of like I'm taking it to another level that I've not done in a long time, and it's actually really enjoyable. Seeing the kind of end results, if that makes sense. Like I've just finished. What did I finish yesterday? Voltanus yesterday, and that took me 4 nights, like 4 days and nights to paint up. Which, if I was painting for an event, that would have been a 1 night job.
yeah.
And it's stuff like kind of I highlighted every single scale in 3 different colours, which took me, I don't want to know how long. I think I saw 1:30 in the morning and went, better go to bed. But yeah, it's things like that, and kind of going back and doing like 3 or 4 different highlights on each colour. And it's just surprising how much of a difference it makes to the model. So no, it's really nice. I mean, the bases you say like are kind of really vibrant, but they were the easiest thing to do. It was all like primed black. I've used a lot of the Azurite ruins and like the Warcry ruins as the kind of bases for like the turtle and Voltanus and some of the eels and things like that. But yeah, they're all just primed black, and then basically I used 3 different Vallejo greeny bluey colours. They're called Scurvy Green, Jade Green, and something or another. They're kind of like the Incubi Darkness and Calabite Green and Saborite Green, I think it is, from GW. Those style of kind of, you know, the kind of colour I mean. But it's basically that just sponged on. So you just kind of sponge over the black with the dark green. So it still looks very black, but it kind of adds a little bit of a tint. Then you sponge over with the middle green quite a bit, and then you just use that light green on the very kind of edges, and it just makes everything pop. And then I use all the Gamer's Grass, the alien tufts, the pink and purple ones, and just the actual pink and orange ones, I think they are. And just scatter them around, and then add some doll furniture seashells that I found on Amazon, I think it was, for like £3 for a whole box. So it's like lots of different seashells and stuff like that, but like scaled to the right size, and jobs are good one. So
There you go.
nice and easy. But no, it has been nice. I mean, the turtle was amazing. I could paint another 3 turtles easily. Like, such a nice model. Like, all the characters on it are like really kind of really dynamic, and the turtle itself, and then you've got the actual I don't know what it's called, the Howarder, is it, I suppose?
Yeah.
That holds them all. So it's just all the different elements of that coming together. So I've got like a mishmash of model. I've not kind of optimal list, but I've done Voltanus, a Soul Scryer, a Soul Render, a Tidecaster. I've got the very last 4 thralls on my desk right now to finish 20 to make that 20 thralls. I've got 12 more Sariels, 3 Ishlan eels, a turtle, and is that everything? Yeah, that's
No
everything.
sharks, have you? You got no sharks?
I've got no sharks at the minute. Yeah, that's everything painted, and then the only thing I've got left to paint is an Eidolon. So yeah, that's the one that I'm a little bit worried about painting, because I just don't know how to paint his wave cloak.
Yeah, it's
to fit
'cause-
in with the basing. It's either I do it in those colours and sponge it on, or I think trying to do it in a normal sea colour, it will look just completely out of place.
yeah.
So I need to, try and think about that.
I'll think about that one.
I've kind of left out. I mean, once I finish these 4 thralls, and that's basically the whole initial part of the army done, and that is 1980 points, I think it is, without any battalions. And like I said, it's not optimal, and it's not great, but I think it's something that I would definitely take to an event just for hopefully a painting nomination. I joked with Mike yesterday on WhatsApp, and I was like, mate, if I take these to an event after lockdown and I don't get a painting nomination, I'm putting them in the bin and going back to dry brushing. Like, I would be devastated if some of my like fast dry brush work, like my Bone Splitters army that I dry brushed, it got a painting nomination at the Howling.
Yeah.
If I don't get a painting nomination with this, I'm just going back to dry brushing because I just can't be bothered. But no,
No, I mean it looks good, and you kind of got that cohesive look across the entire army. And like you say, depending on how you do the Eidolon, it'll should fit in with it all, and gives you some options. And then you can always add to it as you go to tweak as you want to, how you want to play it as such. But I'm sure it would be a standout army. I think the only thing, just all joking apart, I'm expecting the first couple of tournaments to have some absolutely fantastic armies, because I know there's a lot of people that have
I
done
hope
some
so.
similar,
Yeah.
where people have kind of gone, right, I've got this extra time to start painting it. But I think on the flip side, there's also going to be a few where people have genuinely just been like, I'm not paying. And we know a few people like that who have literally just stopped when the tournament season stopped. They stopped, and as soon as that kicks off again, I'm no doubt they'll be like, right, need another army. Let's just bash one out. So it'll be a real interesting to see how people have gone with it.
100%. And like as we said, I can't see there being events for another 6 months at least. So like these are literally, it's kind of a bit bad at the minute. I'm painting them. I'm like, this looks amazing. Yeah, going in the cabinet. Like I'll take a few photos, put them on Twitter and Instagram. Kind of go, yeah, okay, and then just put them in the cabinet and pick something else up to paint. So it is a bit weird doing it like that, but it's nice, like I said, not having that rush anymore, and having that break as well has definitely helped, because I don't feel like I have to kind of just crack on for the sake of cracking on. So
yeah, and you're painting models that you want to paint as opposed to painting models that you want to play. And again, I think that's a very different thing. And I found that because I earlier on started a Squig army. I can't remember whether I'd started on the last podcast or not. And that was just because I quite fancied, painting some Squigs. I love the model. The army's fun and everything, but it is in I'm doing that on Marvel as well. I'm looking at models and I'm looking at them and going, I really like that model. I don't really care what the rules are for it. I really like it, so I might as well just paint that up, and then when we get to our lockdown and we actually need physical things again, fine, I'll get what I need.
You can get what you want out.
I'm not going to paint something just because it's got good rules. I'm going to paint it because I enjoy painting it. And I think it's really refreshing, like you say.
Yeah, it's really nice. I kind of like it. Like I say, it's nice actually going, right, I'm painting this up, let's just see how long it takes. And like the thralls, I'm getting down to probably, I can paint up 4 in probably 2 nights now, which, like I said, kind of when I was batch painting armies, I was painting units of 30 in a night just to get them there and done and dusted. But these, I'm like, I've kind of got down to probably 2 nights worth of work, to a point of whereabouts I'm happy. And it's even stuff like kind of you do everything, then you go back and actually touch up the colours whereabouts you've like overrun into certain colours. Like I never did that in the past, but these are actually going back and going, oh, I've got a bit of white on that bit, or I've got a bit of gold on that bit, or just like touch up with the other colours and just make sure like it's actually cohesive and looks smart and not messy. But no, it's nice. It's nice to pick up a brush again and paint, and kind of, let's say, get back into the hobby. That's why we're recording this, because I was like, right, okay, let's actually get back into doing this. I mean, I did a few painting videos on YouTube, like just before we kind of stopped, and they got quite a few. Like, I think a few of them got like 1,500, 2,000 views, which was nice. It was like speed painting X. Did Caradron and Flesh Eaters and Nurgle and things like that. So I think I'm going to do a few more of them as well. But yeah, once the IDNF are done, it's just kind of... I think I'm going to do a Lumineth army. I know when we did the Lumineth review I said they're not for me, but actually all the new models, they do look nice. It is a nice set. I found some 3D printed heads as well. That look like kind of traditional. They don't look like traditional. They look a bit like the which ones are they? The Wardens, is it? The ones with the big pikes? Just the normal kind of plumes on the back of their heads, or is it the Dawn Riders that have the kind of crested plumes on their heads? I found some 28mm elf heads that you can 3D print. So for some of the kind of crazy things like Stonehorns, not Stonehorns, Stone Guard, that could be an option, but I'm not getting anything yet. I might pick up like a box of something to do some test schemes on, and it's not going to be it won't be a competitive army. It will just be get the things I like to paint. Like I want to paint up one of them mountains. I want to paint up Teclis, even though like I don't think I'd ever use Teclis in a proper list.
Yeah, and again, like you say, it's about picking the models you want to paint as opposed to what you want to run, and just having some fun with it.
That's what I mean. It's like I'm not thinking at all about tournaments because they're just not happening. And well, I say they're not happening. I'm actually doing a tabletop simulator tournament with a Scottish lads over like the next 6 weeks, but like they're not going to the point of whereabouts you've got to do the models as we've talked about. So no, it'll be nice to just pick up a kind of couple of bits and build them and paint them, and then do the bait. I want to do a kind of like a proper like meadowy kind of grassland style base, but like a nice grassland meadowy style base rather than just a bit of sand and some flock and a couple of tufts.
Yeah, so you want some decent long grass with some
long grass and lots of kind of variation and kind of some nice scattered stuff on the floor. And I'm going to experiment and try a few things because I think something like that with like Teclises, because I know Teclis has quite a few like kind of broken statues and bits on the base anyway, so it's not got a lot of stuff to fill around, but I'm thinking of ones for like the Spirit of the Mountain and things like that, doing some fun bits. But yeah, it's just like you said, picking up models that you actually want to paint and doing that, and then splurging lots of money on Marvel models. So the Black Order's looking at me so much like like I didn't even know what the rules were until you taught me last week, and I was still looking at the Thanos and the Black Order going, yeah, I'm definitely getting them. Like, and I've looked at their cards and like they look fun. I think that's the thing with Marvel. There's nothing really overpowered at all. I think there's a couple of strong characters, but there's nothing that's
it's
broken.
You know, what I'm finding at the moment is the more people come in, the more people are finding powerful combos, but they are quite quick to shut them down.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's got a really good internal balance towards it. They're very different for the simplicity of the game. There's a very different way each faction plays, and once you get your head around it, actually, you look at it thinking, wow, that's super powerful, but it's super powerful in the microcosm, not in the overall game, because actually, yes, it allows you to do this really, really well, but then actually you're struggling on the other couple of pieces. It's got a really good balance to it.
Aye. So no, I'm looking forward to painting those as well, but yeah, that's probably about it, really. And you can tell I'm back because I'm just waffling about hobby now. So
It's
is
always
fun.
good.
It's all good. But no, I'm gonna get the Idenef finished, and then, like I said, I want to get some YouTube videos out. I've actually just thinking about it, and I've just realised in the display cabinet I've got a lot of Warcry Underworld's warbands to paint up. So I'm going to be doing some painting videos for them to kind of cover the wider factions that I got off one of our club mates who was just selling them quite cheap. So I've got all of them from him. So I'm just trying to have a look in the cabinet. I've got the Lumineth, the Slanesh, the Kanofi, the Ogre, the Maggotkin, the Orc Brutes, the Beastmen. Yeah, I've got quite a few in there. I think I've got something else. The Goblins on Wolves, I think it is as well.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try and do like painting videos for all of them as well, and just like, you're obviously not going to be, this is how to paint Golden Demon, but it's just like the other videos I've done. It's like, this is how to speed paint but get a decent result and make them look nice. There's a lot of painting videos out there. It's like, this is how to speed paint this, and they just get out their airbrush and like just probably not. So well, that doesn't really help most people who don't have airbrushes. So yeah, it's just basically every video starts with prime it, Halford's car key, and
That
then
seems to be, if you were to make one key recommendation, it's Halford's car key. If that ever went out of production, your painting would just stop.
Not even kidding. I would struggle because everything is primed.
Again? From white and from grey.
Yeah, it is weird. Like I'm thinking about that with the Lumineth. I've thought of a couple of colour schemes. They are a little bit out there, and it would require like a white or a black primer. And I'm like, I don't know whether I'm ready to go back to that. Like,
I'm sure you could make it work from the khaki.
Well, yeah, I could layer up into white or black from there, but it would make the work twice as hard. I don't know. I'll have to have a look. I've been playing around with contrast paints quite a bit, so they've been quite fun. Like, you get mixed results on certain colours, and depends what primer it is as well. But yeah, no, I might play around with a few contrast paints as well on the Lumineth, but I'm sure I'll probably post some up at some point. I need to order something first. I just don't know what unit they get. I don't know whether they just go big and go. No, I don't know. I need
so many options. Problem.
Yeah, I know. I'll probably just get some normal Wardens or Dawn Riders or something like that, whereabouts you can kind of do a lot of practice.
Well, you can test out the schemes on them, etc.
Yeah.
Well, I've always got mine here, so if you ever feel you go down there, just shout, because I can't see me using mine anytime soon.
Until the new models are actually shown, and then you're like, oh, go on then. I want them back. But let's get out of here. We're
okay.
Yeah.
There we go. And I suppose future plans, just very briefly, we were talking before on potentially we're aiming to do one per month going forward. Is that kind of a loose game? A loose aim?
Yes, we might do more, but we're going to probably do one a month. Yeah, if there's suddenly some big stuff, then obviously we'll probably jump on and do an extra episode here and there. Like we said, we do have the Head Knights of Slanesh book coming out end of February, so we'll probably do a Battletome review there.
Yep.
I don't know whether it'll be as long as the Lumineth one, because that one did take 2 nights to do. To be fair, I did have a few people say that they really enjoyed it, but yeah, by the end of it, my head was battered. So
still a work in progress, isn't it? How we do our
yeah, it's a bit hard to try and, rather than just read the book and cover it in an hour, you kind of want to go into detail like we did and do it all like that. So we'll work something out, but yeah, we'll definitely be doing a Battletome review for that. And like we said, if suddenly there's another preview show this month, February, then we'll jump on and do a reactions to that. But yeah, I expect we'll probably be back probably towards the end of February. But if they want to catch you before that, how do they find you on Twitter?
At martinswaffield.
And you're on Instagram.
Also, I believe is at martinswaffield.
Yeah, I was just testing you, just to make sure you remembered. There's always a little bit of a, am I in
Yeah, I
this?
can never remember those ones.
And I'm at Tales of Wargames on both Instagram and Twitter. And then we've got, like we said, the YouTube channel, which is Tales of Sigmar. But we've not really got anything on there at the minute apart from a few videos and the podcast. So we're going to be adding some more bits to that. But until then, take care and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, good night.